Hey guys, I'm AJ.
I'm Shanique.
I'm Kazi.
So in 2018, we quit our jobs to travel the world and live a freedom lifestyle.
We wanted to share our journey with you.
So welcome to the family.
Okay, hey family, what's up? Shanique here from FroFamilyTravels, and I'm really excited today because you won't know this, but I decided to come up with a new YouTube series. I feel like you've heard so much about me and our family and our journey to where we are today, and there's so many other amazing Black Brits abroad doing wonderful things and living a lifestyle outside of the usual 9 to 5 in the UK. And we wanted to highlight them and give you a bit of an insight as to what it might be like and other lifestyles that people live who have decided to leave the UK. So we are calling this series Black Brits Abroad, because that's what it's all about. And I'm very grateful to have our first guest with us today. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us more about what she's been up to. But today I'm really grateful to have with us on Black Brits Abroad, Sasha. So hi, Sasha.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I think this is a great opportunity and a great chance for other people to see kind of what's going on around the world. So yeah, so I'm Sasha, and I am from same hometown as Shanique. We went to school together. Don't tell anyone. I am currently living in Canada. So that's my Black Brits Abroad. That's my living abroad right now. And I've been here for just over a year now, so it's quite new. And I'm sure we'll get into kind of the ins and outs, but I am a UK girl, born and raised. My family's from Ghana, so we've got some great heritage going on there. We're quite a traveling, multicultural, encompassing family. So travel is in my blood. So just trying to keep that going and finding the new opportunities and stuff that arise.
Wonderful. All right. So Sasha and I went to school together, and it's funny, just before we hit record, I was like, how many years has it been since we've spoken? Because we follow each other on Instagram. Yeah. And, so you have like little Instagram chats here and there, but we were like, man, it's been 18 years since we've seen each other. That just made me feel very old. I feel very
But we don't look it, so I feel like we're winning.
That's very true. I 100% agree. Okay. But yeah, I don't have any like dirt on Sasha at all. I feel like we were both good girls at school.
Yeah, we were really good. We're not the ones that we probably have any information on. We're boring. We were boring at school. We did the things we were supposed to do. We just carried on doing life.
This is true.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dive right in. So, Sasha, can you take us back to when you first decided that you didn't want to stay in the UK anymore? What did that look like for you?
I think for me, I don't think I ever made an outright decision to say, hey, I don't really want to live in the UK anymore. I'm always the one who's like kind of teetering. I'm just going to go on a long break. So I'd done like 5 months traveling back in 2018. I saved up loads, quit my job, and then went traveling for 5 months to Southeast Asia. And then when I came back, I think when you add the pandemic and the fact that all my family kind of live in a different country. Also, I should say my mum already lived in Canada. She's lived here for about 14 years. So I already had a connection to Canada in some sort of way. But yeah, so there was never a moment when I was like, yeah, I really don't like the UK. But I think as things changed and things moved, and then I was kind of already thinking about it due to family connections, but not specifically to say, I never want to live in the UK again. But then the pandemic hit, and then that made me reassess a lot of things. And I was like, I was already on the journey to say I'm going to go. I was just trying to say, okay, well, I'm just going to get this job. I'm going to do this after a year, save up some money. And then I was like, you know what? Never mind. This is wild. I'm just going to go. So I'm going to go now. We're going to figure out the stuff. Yeah. And I think actually for me, that was probably a good thing. I'm not spontaneous. I like to plan the hell out of everything. And so moving, especially during the pandemic, was wild. You don't have the closure of like, oh, I'm going to get say bye to my friends. There's no leaving party. There's no, and I moved in between all the, oh, are we in a lockdown? Are we not in a lockdown? Like, and I was like, looking at other countries and how they were dealing with the pandemic and looking at the UK and all of the sneaky rules and stuff that were coming in. I'm like, yeah, this is not for me, guys. I'm out. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think cumulative decision.
Fair enough. And so I was going to ask how your family reacted, but obviously, like you said, your mum already lived in Canada. I know you have a sister. Your sister's in Canada as well.
Yes, well, she is now, and I have another sister who lives in Ghana. So we were already all over the place, but it's kind of like we've kind of moved our home base here now, right? So our small family unit, that just the four of us, is kind of here with advantages of husbands and children and all the other stuff, kind of moving here just as a different lifestyle, like just as a different life choice and a different way of living and different way of experiencing life. It's not necessarily forever, but try just try.
And so were your family encouraging you? I'm trying to understand why you decided to actually go to Canada specifically. My mum, since she moved here and how the lifestyle changed for her. So obviously through the years as she's been here, I've seen kind of the difference. So for her, she moved because of work, and she got a great opportunity here she's a nurse, and we already know how they treat nurses in the NHS. The pandemic should have shown you loud and clear what's happening. And she was like, you know what, when I'm here, I get to be a nurse. I don't have to be a porter. I don't have to clean the beds. I get to be with my patients. I do what I trained for. And they give me the appropriate money. Could they pay them more? Sure, but that's everywhere, right? Yes.
So that kind of living and lifestyle and all the stuff that goes with it, she was happier here. So I've seen that over the last few years. And then as obviously everyone's growing up, people get partners, people have children, having their own family. So each of us are becoming their own family unit. And I'm, exploring the world, but then my family is everywhere. And then when you get the pandemic also, I'm like, hey, this is really far to be away from my mum. She's here by herself. I was in the UK by myself. Like, I don't want to have a situation where someone is not good and then there's like an emergency travel or something, or you just like, you're scrambling, you're trying to connect. Yeah, she has her people and the community that she made, and my mum is big in the community here, but it's not me, right? So, and she's worried about me there and I'm worried about her there. And I think after I came back from traveling and then everyone came for a small bit and then everyone left, I think there was that big like, oh my God, this feels really lonely. And so I'm like, hey, what can I do that isn't going to be like that? And I had a full life and all that stuff. But then the pandemic shut all of that down, right? So you just don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. And your friends can say, hey, we got you. When they're told they're not allowed to come and help you, and you're by yourself and they've got a family unit and you don't add to their circle of six or whatever it is, you're really on your own. And there's only so many Zoom calls that you can do. So, yeah. So then I was just like, I just want to be closer to my mum. I just want to be closer to her. It will just make my life feel better. And I'm like, why not? Let's just try. So that was I think, that's why I think the decision about leaving England wasn't so critical and like, I really hate England. It was more of, I just want to be close to my mum and I want to make sure that she's okay, that we're okay. And then we can just remove this niggling in the back of my head where I'm always trying to call and check in.
Yeah. And I think that's really understandable, because I think, every time that we've returned back to the UK, it's solely been for family and to see friends. And that for us, I think, is about the only thing that we miss probably about the UK currently is our family. And, like you said, you do have it in your mind, if there's an emergency,
Yeah.
or if they need you or you need them, you're so many thousands of miles away. So I completely understand that. And we've always said that the one thing that is missing from our current lifestyle at the moment is having those people that we care about close by. So yeah, I completely understand that. So how is Canada? You've been there, you said, for about a year now. How's it been?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's been a pandemic. It is still a pandemic or whatever's going on. So actually, like, jumping in and getting involved in life how you normally would, or all the things you think to do, engage with people, meet new people, kind of shut down. So only recently did we just like have no masks, where like, optional no masks. So actually have quite strict rules here, and then we have like the vaccine passport and stuff, all of those kind of things that are here. So I think it's been good because I've just got to spend lots of time with my family. But in terms of like connecting and making links and stuff like that, it's been quite tricky because you can't go to the normal places you would. Let's say if you want to go to the gym, you might meet a gym buddy or someone, but then the gyms are closed. So it's a very strange time to do that. But I think for me, it's been really helpful because then it means I've just had to do things at a slower pace, which is not my normal first forward thinking mind. I'm like, okay, here's the plan, let's go, let's do it. But yeah, so I have made a couple new friends, but they've been good ones. So I think that because you can be like, actually we can do one-on-one meetings, then you get to spend more time and then you invest more of that time into that person. So that's been good. I would say the lifestyle is similar to the UK. I'm on the west side, so I'm in Vancouver side. I've heard Toronto's really like London. I'm not feeling that vibe. busy life. I just don't want that. I live in a I would say small town, but not small compared to what you know in England, because probably it fills the size of the whole of the UK. Over in BC, and yeah, it's nice. Like, it's a farming town, but fresh fruit, fresh produce, life, like the little things that you kind of, take for granted, that you have access to really quickly and really easily. So
nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And so what are you doing in Canada? I know you mentioned on your social media before what you're up to, but you're studying, right?
Yes, I've gone back to school. I've gone back to school and I'm studying anthropology, which is a little bit of a wild card.
Right.
And people talk to me like, oh, you're always studying something. And I've just accepted. I'm an academic, okay? I actually love it. So I'm doing that. I've got plans for doing a PhD and stuff like that in the future, but there's some knowledge gaps that I had. So I just decided to go back, and I'm interested in doing counselling for kind of what they call BIPOC here, so Black, Indigenous, people of colour, for young kids. So I want to do counselling. So you need a counselling master's to do practice counselling here. But the way their system works, I don't have the prerequisites courses to go into that because I studied a completely different degree. So I've kind of gone back to the drawing board, which actually, when I calculated it and did all the things, I'm like, actually, it's fine. You think, oh my God, I'm going back to school. But then I'm like, yeah, people do their, like, if you do your PhD before you're 45, that's pretty good. Yeah, exactly. So so I've gone back to school. So I'm doing school and working, doing a bit of that crazy life thing. But I think it's worth it. Like, I feel like I'm investing in something that I really want, not just kind of going with the flow, which I felt like happened a lot in England for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how was it going into higher education in Canada? Because like you said, maybe you didn't have some of the prerequisites to do what you wanted to do. So in terms of the financial side, in terms of having the qualifications to get started, what was it like transitioning from UK higher education to Canadian?
So the education I already have just got me straight into the course. Like, I didn't have to do anything else. They didn't ask. I just got immediate acceptance, which was really good. But that also is because I'm doing an equivalent course to what I kind of already have. Obviously, I'm currently an international student, So the funding for that for me would be, my mum really helps, but then also because I've been able to work part-time as well on that, then that kind of feeds into how I'm paying for that. I mean, it's a lot. So that's why I'm doing a smaller course first. And then you can go back and look into how you want to apply, if you want to immigrate, all that kind of stuff here in Canada. And they have lots of different streams, different opportunities for people to come in. They have a more of a points-based system. And they have a lot. So if you even Google immigration to Canada, they have a lot of things. And if you're under 30, they even have that holiday visa type thing. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to come to Canada. Yeah.
So was that process quite simple then, getting your student visa or residency?
Yeah. So they have lots of different things, and most people think, oh, maybe you maybe need a lawyer or something. You don't need that. Like, you just read the stuff and do what it says, and you're good to go. Like, you can literally type in on their website also they have a kind of questionnaire, like, I want to come to Canada, and then you can type in your criteria, and then it will tell you what kind of programs you're eligible for. So and even on the website, if you're worried about something or you're thinking something, it actually gives you step by step of what to do. So it was super easy in the sense that it's easy to follow, whereas I feel like a lot of English is like, go over here, talk to this person, and they send you back around the circle. So it's easy in that sense. Obviously, you kind of need to have some money to back that. So it depends on your situation. But then also Canada has, like, if you want to come over and you're in their skills bracket, it's like they've got top skills that they need stuff for. You can apply and go in straight to say, actually, I've got this job offer, and then they will back that with offering you an opportunity to apply for permanent residency. So other steps to go through, but they have lots of different ways. You don't have to go back to school if you don't want to. But for schooling purposes, it was simple for me. Yeah.
I love that the process is quite simple in the sense that they've got the information of the website. I wish every single country was like that. It would save so much headache. Yeah. Can you share, if you don't mind, can you share roughly how much it did cost you to move over, in terms of your visa application?
Oh, so the visa application, so there's an application fee for university, like to apply to the university. I think it was 100 or 150 Canadian dollars. I think that's about how much it was, but it all depends on what school you're going to, and then you'd look at how much your fees are going to be, whether that's for a year, and then you have to prove that you're going to be able to do that when you're doing your application. But the actual application fee for a student visa is it's either 100 or 150. That's why I'm getting confused. One's 100 and the other one's 150.
Okay.
And that's so the actual visa process is not, you just have to have the funds to back you, right? So either you're going to have someone sponsor you, or you're going to have, because you need to prove that they if you're going to be a student, they want to know that you're going to be able to pay for your school fees, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So other than that, and it's not upfront, so you don't have to say, oh, I've got this. You say, if someone's going to sponsor you, they can use their salary. Let's say you're going to use your partner or whoever it was. You can say, okay, this is what we have, and this is how I'm going to pay for that person. And you write that all in a letter type thing. Yes. And then you prove with some documentation, bank statements or whatever else. But the actual application fee is only between $100 and $150.
Okay. And is it a student visa that you're currently on at the moment? Yes. And how does that last only for the duration of your studying? What happens after that if you wanted to stay? Okay, so I guess it depends on if whatever your course is, they would give you an equivalent study visa. They have a lot of programs afterwards. So if you finish your studying, they want people to stay, basically. They want people to, they love having graduates. If you studied here, they will give you something called a postgraduate work permit. So once you've graduated, you can apply for a postgraduate work permit, and then you would have essentially equivalent. I don't know exactly, so I would say go on the website to go and find that out, but equivalent to how long your course was. Right. So as long as it was more than a year, that's my understanding. And they would give you that, meaning that you get an open work visa to work in Canada. And then after that, then you can join any of those other schemes to go into permanent residency. So they have a continual
do this, you do this, then you can get into this, you can get into this, and you can come in different angles or variations, but they have a kind of a stream or a process where they want people. Canada has a whole immigration target of how many people they want to come in. And they did something which I haven't really seen other countries do. I haven't seen England do it anyway, where they did the kind of census and survey, finding out where the gaps were in the market because of the pandemic. So they already had the immigration target, and then they know they have gaps in the market, obviously, because with the pandemic, people lost jobs, people passed away. So there are skills that they're lacking or spaces that they need to fill. And so then they added that equivalency to figure out how much in immigration they need. And they have their targets and their numbers, and they have the different schemes that they have in order to get people. And they change things all the time. So I would say if Canada's where you want to come, then I would get on that website.
I love it. It definitely sounds like they're very proactive about recruiting internationally, and that there may be quite a bit of opportunity there as well. Yeah,
definitely. I'm trying to lure all my friends as well. So the thing is, I think the thing about people think when you move somewhere, it's forever. It doesn't have to be forever. True. When I was younger, I used to speak to people and they'd be like, oh, I lived here. I'm like, how did you fit all of that stuff into that small life that you're telling me that you've had?
So true.
Look for opportunities, go for them, seize them. Is it for 5 months? Is it for 5 years? You actually don't necessarily know that. You can plan for that and say, but things happen all the time. So something could happen tomorrow and I could say, actually, you know what? I want to go back. And I can do that. I'm able to do that.
Yes.
But you have to take the opportunity. So you're never going to know.
That is so true. That's so true. I love that. So you said you're also working alongside studying as well.
Yes.
So what are you doing for work?
I'm a youth worker. So youth worker back in the UK. So I've just come back and jumped into community. I love people. So community is where my heart is anyway. So while I haven't necessarily made community or find my tribe here, I've definitely made that in community in the stuff that I do and the work that I do with young people. So I absolutely love that here. So I'm enjoying getting to know the young people of the area and connecting with them. So that's
wonderful.
What I'm doing at the same time.
Wonderful. And was it quite easy for you to find your job when you moved to Canada?
Yeah, so I found it obviously after I got my study permit. So with my study permit, you're allowed to work part-time. So because I was looking for the avenues or trying to figure out what I was going to do first. Then once I decided that, then it was quite easy. I think if you've got UK experience, they will literally scoop you up, right? So they know what kind of background they know. And when you come here, you realize there are a lot of people who have immigrated here. So really? Most of the people that I've run into, they're like, yeah, I've been here for 15 years, but that's how I came. I came through a work visa or I came for a study visa. And you just don't know because you don't know the person. It could literally be your neighbor and they will say, our background is here, there, or whatever. And then you'll find that so much people. I think they say about 40%, don't quote me on that, is from immigration in Canada.
That's huge. That's huge. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. That's so interesting. So can you talk us through a typical day, if there is a typical day in your life? What does it look like?
Youth workers don't have typical days, but I would say this semester's been quite intense for me because I've taken quite a few classes. I'm not going to be doing that again. But a typical day for me would be I would wake up, I'd probably come to this computer, do a couple hours for my classes, work for my classes. Then I'd go to school. We do some programs in school with some of the young people at lunchtime. And then I would be at the youth centre for drop-in after school. Then I'd come home and do some more uni work. That's currently what's happening, which is a bit like my life was in the UK, except I've got mountains outside my window and the weather is nice. When the weather is nice, the weather is nice. Like it's warming up already. The blossoms are everywhere. And then when you add a weekend that we try as a family to go out somewhere and do something new that we haven't done. find a new experience, do something. And I just have the opportunities to have days with my family, whereas I probably would have been doing that, but coming home to an empty home for myself, which in some places I really enjoyed, and in others I didn't. So just different seasons, different life right now. So I'm just embracing what it is right now. And then the next season will be what the next season is, and I'll embrace that and go with that then.
Yes. So what would you say that you love the most about living in Canada at the moment?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm actually really enjoying studying right now. So for me, that's like taking over my whole thing. But I think the opportunities or experiences and stuff are outside of that. Like in England, I felt like, okay, well, I went to work and I came home, the day was done. And if I wanted to go out and do something, it would take up all my energy. Sure. And it'd only be a tiny bit of time, or it'd be really expensive and I couldn't really afford it. And there are so many things that you can do here that are free. So you could, so if I want to after work, or even if it's just like I just want to go down the road to go to an ice cream shop, we don't have many of those in England either, and just hang out at a coffee place and have an ice cream and just relax, right? So this kind of like work-life balance is a thing here. So people actually, and even if they're like doing intense work for blocks and blocks, you will see Canadians, they have their like caravan or their Winnebago, they've gone off camping in the woods, they've gone off somewhere hiking to Whistler, like skiing to Whistler, they've gone on a hike. BC, they love hiking. I'm not the hiking girl, but yay for those who want to do that. But there is things that you can do. And like even as a local area would be like, this is what's going on, it's spring break, here's all the activities for the kids, leisure centres, skating, like there's something for every season, and they are willing you to come and do it. And then you add that we've got good weather, so sometimes there's vineyard tours, there is like museums, like stuff there is in London, but I feel like either I needed to pay an arm and a leg to either get on the train or get to where I'm going. And then that busy London vibe always dissuade me. But here I feel like, okay, I did do a lot, but I still got time. I can still do something, and I don't have to spend all the money that I've made.
That's good to hear. So the cost of living generally, would you say it's more affordable to live in Canada where you are compared to?
I would say it depends on where you live.
Okay. So
because the markets recently have been super crazy, so they've kind of skyrocketed. But one of the things my mom always said was like, in England, if you had to have a certain type of job to be able to live a certain kind of life.
True.
So here, you can work at whatever job, as long as you have a pay, you've got pay, you've got an income, you can live where you want to live. So my mom always be like, you can work at McDonald's, you have a salary, and you can get an apartment. In England, they'd be like, you need first months, last months, you need this, and this. And then you're like, where am I going to get all that money from? I have a job, like I'm going to be able to pay it, but I just maybe can't pay it like that. I'm not saying they don't ask for first and last month's rent, but I feel like if you work at McDonald's full time in England, unless you're the manager, you're not going to go and get your own place because it's not affordable. Yeah. So I would say in that sense, then you're going to make, and if like yourselves, you guys are digital nomads and you having income coming from a different place, then actually your opportunities are even wider.
Good to know. And I know you said that, Canada is obviously quite cosmopolitan, maybe similar to the UK in some respects. But have you experienced any kind of culture shock or anything that's been, woo, this is different?
Oh, yes, I have. Okay. Because the thing about Canada also is, let me be careful because it's going to be on the internet, so I don't want to say anything that's going to be like, you need to leave. But Canada, every country has its history. Colonialism, colonizers be colonizing. That's what they do. Canada is what they call a settler colonial place. So like in England, so let's say England, they were the colonizers, right?
Sure.
So they went from somewhere, they took themselves from their land to somewhere else. And so I can say in a lot of African countries, what they did is they came, they took resources, obviously decimated the places, but they left.
Right.
So for Canada, so there's a lot, Canada, America, Australia, and a few, and South Africa and a few other places, they never left. They're still here. They built the society in that way. So that means that the indigenous people of the land are the people who are the people who would be subject to the oppression. So yes, Black people, I mean, doesn't matter what country you go to, we're the people who people are doing something to, but indigenous people also. And I've learned a lot, especially because of what I'm studying. I'm doing indigenous studies as well,
yes,
because I want to know. And actually the parallels is very parallel to what happened for the Black community as well. So really? There's a lot. So on the face of it, yes, I mean, it's great, but it's also great to a certain group of people. So like coming from England, it's great for you, right? So, but that is a lot in immigration anyway. Coming from other Western countries, it's great for you and it's easy for you. So the opportunity, I'd say seize it. For others, maybe not so much. And especially here, Indigenous, I mean, there's so much history, there's so much stuff, and there's so much stuff going on as like we currently speak, and things that are going on all the time. And it's distressing that is, and what I've learned about life in general is that we as community of the people who seem to be oppressed, anyone with any sort of skin tone, we just need to wake up and band together and do things ourselves, because they're not going to do it for us. They're not going to do it for us. They're not going to try and help us, because they do what they do. That's what they do. They've been doing it for centuries. If you want to pretend it's not happening, or you don't want to see it, or you want to, whatever it is, that however they want to figure that out, that's on them. We do need everyone to get involved with reconciliation. We do need everyone to move forward, because things are changing, whether they like it or not. And the Indigenous community and population here is one of the fastest growing demographics in Canada. So a reckoning is coming, it is here. So it's either you're going to do stuff to do that, or you're not. But you're not going to continue to treat them the way they're doing. And the new generation are, as the Black generation, are speaking up, are doing things, are fighting for their land, because this is their land.
Yes.
And you have to know and respect that. You have, I would say, if you're coming to Canada, I would say do your research. I just think a lot of people come and they're like, yay, Canada, and like how it is. And I'm like, if you want to be a citizen of the world anyway, you need to do your research, because people are just going to try and walk over you anyway, any opportunity that they can. But let's be respectful to the people whose land it is.
Right.
That's Absolutely. Just a basic, I feel like that's just a basic truth, wherever you go. So if you're going to Italy, it's a good example because they don't like that. When you go, or France, and you go there, you try and force English, you're trying to talk to them in English, and you're not even trying, they're actually not going to mind you, because they're like, nah, this is where you're actually in our country. Yeah. So why do that kind of elitist that comes with English language, that comes across in business, in life, that you're like, well, because I speak English, you must speak English. No.
Right.
No. First of all, you're actually in a different country. And secondly, just know, like, you're not the be all and end all of everything. Language, just because yours has been forced on more people, does not mean yours is better.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel the same way. I can't stand the entitlement when English people travel to other countries and expect to be spoken to in English. It's shocking to me.
Yeah.
So being melanated in Canada, how has that been? Do you feel you've noticed some microaggressions? racism in any way? How does that compare to maybe the experiences of the Indigenous people?
I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the Indigenous people. I can just go for what I've seen. And so I would say so one of the interesting things that happened in one of my classes is when we talked about, when you talk about the hierarchy in England, they'll talk about the hierarchy of who's who. And when they talk about, like, they will obviously talk about Black people, and Black women would always be at the bottom. So when there's a question asked in class, like, okay, who within society do you think is kind of at the bottom of this rung, or in terms of history and things that have happened? Obviously in my mind, I'm like, yeah, Black women. And then I'm like, whoa, you're in a different context here. And it actually is Indigenous women. So yeah, you've got Black women. I'm not saying whether one is higher or less, but in terms of their, like, and it's not everyone, but because of the nature of how the land is, kind of the policies and stuff that happen, and there's gross there are things that happen here and are in policy and are in place till today, which actually are considered genocide. But people don't talk about it on the world stage, right? Because Canada is a larger, considered a Western country. But there are people here who are living in conditions worse than that you think that of the worst conditions of the world.
I can imagine. I feel like, I mean, I don't know, I know you've traveled considerably as well, but I always feel like when we go back to the UK, like sometimes when we see like the homeless communities in London, the conditions that they're living in often is worse than some of the places that we've been in that might be considered third world. So it's interesting that people think, oh, just because it's the UK or it's Canada, we're so much more advanced or better, than these other places. So I'm like, this whole first, second, third world thing, we need to stop with those labels.
Not a thing. Yeah, definitely not. And in every country, you could come here and not witness any of that. It's very easy to do that. It's very easy not to see people. But when you start, if you take a moment, you will notice it in just like in England. You notice when things are like, the speech is geared towards not including other people of other races, or when someone says, or the jokes, or the commentary on the news, or it's the same here, but and so obviously because of the link, Canada, this whole land, North America, obviously they have different histories, but they actually have a communal history, because this land, as much as they like to say before Columbus discovered, is not an empty land. There were hundreds and thousands of communities of Indigenous people here whose lives were decimated by colonialism.
Wow. Yeah.
And so when you start to understand that, and they're not, and as they do for like Black people, we're all under one banner, all under one thing, but we're not. We're individuals. You would not say Ghanaians and Nigerians and Ethiopians and Egyptians. You wouldn't say they're all the same. They're not all the same, right? Everybody has their own culture, their own traditions. The same for Indigenous communities. If you're here, and obviously I know more about the ones here in BC, but the whole of North America and South America, because all it was is the Europeans on the other side did their own thing, cut up land on a piece of paper and said, I'm going to have this bit, you're going to have this bit. And that's how they're going to do it. And then they told you a different story, but that's not the truth.
Right. Wow. Thank you for sharing. I've definitely learned so much. I don't know. We've never learned Canadian history. So a lot of what
they're not going to tell you what they'd be doing. And a lot of the stuff I've read is and learned about is recent. It's not like it's not like stuff like even the stuff when we talk about slavery, we're talking about how the reparations were like paid to the slave owners, and that didn't finish. We didn't finish paying that off until 2015. Like, you're like, what the hell? Like, I actually paid for you to pay someone else for my ancestors. Like, that is a wild. But when you start looking here and you learn about residential schools, and then you hear that the last residential school closed in 1996. That's not that long ago. I was in school in 1996. So it's within my lifetime. And then people want to say things about the community, not understanding why certain things have happened. There's so much generational trauma that they're only people. I'm talking about, I know someone, and I'm actually speaking to someone, I know Indigenous friends whose parents went to residential school. It's not like, we're talking about hundreds and thousands of years ago. I'm talking about someone's parents. So how can you then say, like, okay, well, you should be doing this and you should be this far along because we all have opportunities? No. You had an opportunity because your ancestors came and did what they did. Yes. And now they are still trying to recover from what happened to their ancestors, who are only one generation away.
Wow.
I mean, come on.
Wow.
And that's just one area. We're not talking about stealing land, and they're not actually being any treaties, or they're not being anything like you just it's a lot. It's actually a lot. Start peeling back the layers, I would say.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting to know. So I'm going to change course.
Yeah.
Because we could go on and on. But we know what it is. We know what it is. And it's sad, but it's not surprising, unfortunately. Yeah. So have you been back to the UK since? Well, I know it's only been a year, so maybe it's not been enough, but
I haven't been back yet. I am planning on going this year, but only for a very tiny, we're just going somewhere else for another holiday. And I do want to go back, but not because I miss apart from me and my sister talk about my sister's in Ghana, so we're talking about random things that we miss about things that we eat. That's like the only thing. But other
what
than
are you
that,
missing that you eat that you could eat?
Oh, random things like fish and chips. Like they have some here, but it's just not
the same.
Yeah, and then you're like, and then there are things that you discover, like it's really weird, but I really want salad cream, and it's not a thing here. So you're just like,
I completely understand.
Really random things.
So, chips, I miss fish and chips so much. AJ doesn't get it because he doesn't like it. And randomly the other day I was like, some baked beans. I could have some baked beans.
So we can get baked beans here. Yeah. The actual English ones. They have a whole international section and they have baked beans. Heinz baked beans. Sorry, this is not a promotion for them, but they're baked beans. Because also when you go to, I find when you go to other Western countries, they make it like it's the same, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not. I was my mum's coming soon, and I was tempted. I've asked her to bring some crunchy nut clusters already, and I was tempted. I'm tempted to ask her to bring some baked beans.
Do it. I would say you should do it. But other than that, I missed my friends. So I missed my community and my friends. I had a busy social life, busy community, busy church family. Like I missed that. But I don't really miss the rest of the UK. And then all the things that I see now watching on the other side, I'm like, I'm good.
Right? Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. Especially because I keep getting sent messages about, the high, and I know, like you said, prices have been increasing world over. But when people are like, now we're having to think about £200-300 a month bills for electricity and stuff, I'm like, whoo, okay, just that alone is a reason to not go back right now. It is.
I just feel like it's hard. Like I'm like, that's not life. Like I'm like, that's not, I mean, it's a life, but it's not enjoyable if all you're doing is working to pay your electricity bill. I mean, that's like it's a basic standard. And then people want to blame it on other things. I'm like, but they had plans to do this all the time. They just made it like they were helping you out. Then they hold it back. And they're like, okay, well, we can't do anything about this. So it's all on you.
Exactly.
But you're not increasing my pay. Okay.
Right. So in terms of, because, like you said, you miss your community back at home. How has it been building community friendships? You said you made a couple of good friends in Canada now. How was that?
I think, making friends is always very interesting. It took me ages to make the friends that I have. And I think when you get older, you get a bit more selective, but you also have less. When you go to school, there's hundreds of people. So you've got a big space to choose people from, even though you are selective, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a space where there's hundreds of people to engage with at one time. And sometimes it's like, that's the only person, that's the one other person that will actually talk to you from this group. So then are they your friend? Are they not your friend?
Yeah.
And then doing school during a pandemic, it means that a lot of things are online. So there's lots of things I've just never met anyone in my class, never seen my teacher in person. So how then navigating that is a whole other thing. So basically, I just started reaching out to people in my classes. Did you do that? So in my classes, I mean, the people that you want to connect with. So if I hear someone say something that I think is interesting in class, I send them an email. Right. If you don't respond, you don't respond. Or I'll be like, hey, or do you want to let's talk on the classwork or whatever. And then you start a Zoom call like this, and before you know it, you're off having a conversation. That's how I've met the two people that I've really connected with in my class. I just start looking at the pictures, try to look for some other people that look like me or that look like they would accept me, which is really hard. And just I send messages to people and connect with people, and then it's been great for that conversation, and it's never gone anywhere. I don't take that personal. If we were in class in person, I would speak to someone in my class, but I wouldn't go and have lunch with them. That's fine. Yeah. Just that we're not in the same room anymore. So if you don't respond, that's cool. I can still talk to you in class. So you just have to be a bit more inventive, I think. And so the friends that I've made have come via different channels. I connected with a few people on I went on dating app, but not for date. I don't know what they call them. So to make friends, friendship, kind of like friendship type things. And but people are just a bit lazy, I think. Let's actually meet and talk and whatever. If you want to be a friend, you don't have to. Make a decision to engage. And I've met with a few people, gone out for walks or met up, and then just never really. And I don't force it. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. I think when you move abroad, there is an element of having to be a bit more proactive. Yeah. Like it's already more difficult when you're an adult to try and make friends. And so we kind of need to be a bit more proactive if we are wanting to find those more long-lasting friendships. We use online. One of the things I'm grateful for when it comes to social media, Facebook, Instagram is a great way to connect with people. And like you said, you kind of just check out kind of photos. Yeah. Oh, you're kind of into that? Yeah. You're posting about that. You sound like you might be my kind of people. And then just reach out. And like you said, sometimes there's been times we've met up with people and it's like, right, that was a cool time for once, maybe. But it's okay. You don't take it personally. You just read it as it is. And, and other times we've made people, we're like, that's family now, but social media is a great one. And I'm going to have shameless plug now for Black Brits Abroad Facebook group as well. But and kind of groups like Black Brits Abroad, we will, if we're going to a destination, so now like in Playa, we would put into Facebook expats in Playa del Carmen, and just sending out a message, hey, we're a family of 3, we've got a 4-year-old, anyone else with young children like to meet up with, a play day, those kind of things. So I think you just have to be a bit more proactive. Otherwise, like you said, I think people do get a bit lazy. You get caught up with your own lives and stuff. So it's cool to know. We just have to get out there a little bit. So what is one thing that you wish you knew about living in Canada that no one told you before you moved?
Oh, that is a good question. Canada's huge. I knew that in my mind, but in principle, it's actually huge. And also, the population here is smaller than the population in England. So, So when you start to think and expect things to be the same as back home, then you start to understand, maybe not. So we're covering a vast amount of land with a less amount of people. So example is I don't eat dairy. So in England, I'm really good. I connected with lots of mostly vegan stuff, dairy-free forums, and found lots of things, but they were maybe smaller businesses. But it meant that I could have lots of different options, and newer things would come out. Even bigger brands would bring their stuff. None of that stuff is the same brands and the same people are not here. Okay. So I'm having to relearn all of those things again. But because it's North America, you have the idea that, oh, well, this should be here. And I think that's what a lot of people, when people move over, they're like, oh, well, you should have this, or you shouldn't have this, or have, because you compare it to back home. So I would just, I mean, for me, for like my dairy-free stuff, I wish I knew that before. I probably would have bought a lot more things before I came. But also, I would have done a lot more research into what I could and could not have. I mean, some of it's a journey. I'm going to have to discover and things. And obviously, people are coming up with newer stuff here also. And yeah, there's just some stuff that you just, even as much as I wish I would have known about it before, I don't have the experience, so it would have just been knowledge in my mind and maybe wouldn't have helped. Like the sugar content here is ridiculous. Is absolutely ridiculous. So really? North America in general, sugar machine.
Yes.
And especially if you're coming from a different country and you're coming here, like England, the EU have different laws and legislation regarding food in general that they don't have here. So here, I mean, it's different from America. America's maybe up there, but Canada's definitely here. So there's a lot of cross-border like supplies and stuff like that, where we get supplies from Europe, they get supplies from, this is where they do their supply chain. And this whole America side, so North and South, so they import a lot of stuff from South America also. But in terms of the products and stuff that you buy, there is sugar in everything.
Yeah.
So I wish I knew that a bit more. I mean, maybe I wouldn't have gone a bit sugar crazy when you get here, because you think, wow, I can have this, all those things in England when you thought, yeah, I'm going to have this, and now you're like, wow.
Yeah.
I think I need to go back to the lifestyle. And you just have to rethink it. I mean, that and living in my mum's house is a whole food journey in itself, because mum's feed. So yeah. So I think that was lots of little bits, but all around the same kind of context. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. I think we've covered most of everything now. It's going on almost an hour. So thank you so much for joining us. Sasha, one final note. Are you reading anything at the moment? What are you reading, if you are?
I am an avid book reader, and I rekindled that during lockdown. So I actually have a target of 100 books this year. So
100 books?
Yeah, I did 80 last year. So I am, so I'm like, come on, girl, you can do this. So I am actively trying to read BIPOC books. So people by Black, Indigenous, people of colour, and female also. I read recently. So I read a book called 150 Years Retold. It's a book about Indigenous history, and it actually it's a graphic novel, but it's Indigenous people telling their story, and then they give you in kind of little pieces about revolutions that have happened, because you often hear a story, but then you think that the people never did anything about it. Why didn't they say something, or why didn't they do anything? They have. So it does that. So it does a bit of past, it does some present, and it does future as well. So it kind of goes through this whole thing. So that would definitely be one I recommend. I read a really good book. So as you can see, I've got all these books behind me in my library. One that I read last year that was really good was called The Gilded Ones. So it's a YA sci-fi type thing, African futurism type book. So I would recommend those. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence, giving up your time today to share all about your life in Canada. I'm so grateful for your time. Canada's not really something I've really somewhere I've thought about traveling to, but it's really good to hear more about it. We appreciate you, and
thanks for having me.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed hearing more about Sasha's life in Canada. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.